This week on Africa Weekly, we focus on Madagascar, where national security and the fight against corruption will be a key issue for the country's next president. And we take you to Kinshasa, once the capital of rumba, where young people are now switching over to the more urban sounds of rap and hip-hop. But first, a summary of the stories that made the headlines this week. Hundreds of angry Copts gathered from dawn on Saturday in and around Prince Tadros Church in the Egyptian city of Minya for the funeral of 6 victims killed in an attack by the jihadist Islamic State group on Friday. 7 Coptic Christians were shot dead on a bus as they were returning from a visit to the desert cemetery of St. Samuel that was also targeted in 2017. The Interior Minister said on Sunday that 19 suspected jihadists linked to the deadly attack were killed in a shootout with police and that they were operating as part of a cell. 90 children who were kidnapped from a school in a troubled English-speaking region of Cameroon earlier this week were freed days later in a military operation and reunited with their families.
Almost all those that were abducted has been released.
On Monday, armed separatist militants stormed a school in Bamenda, the capital of the Northwest region, seizing 79 schoolboys and 3 adults. When the group was freed on Wednesday, it turned out there were another 11 pupils with them, who had been abducted from the same school 5 days earlier. The Presbyterian Church, which runs the school, said these 11 pupils had been taken on October 31st, but the news was kept secret to enable negotiations with the kidnappers. The chain of events leading up to their release was not immediately clear, nor was the identity of the kidnappers. The kidnappings took place a day before Cameroon's 85-year-old President Paul Biya was sworn in for a 7th term in office and coincided with an upsurge of tension in the majority French-speaking country. Such mass kidnappings were previously unknown in Cameroon, although they are notorious in neighbouring Nigeria. Partial results published on Thursday showed Madagascar's former presidents Andry Rajoelina and Marc Ravalomanana neck and neck in the country's presidential race. Rajoelina won 43.5% of votes, while Ravalomanana secured 42.4%, according to results from 147 polling stations out of nearly 25,000 nationwide. The country's most recent president trailed with 2.9% of the votes counted so far, alleging that many voting irregularities pointed to fraud in the poll. 47 people were killed in Zimbabwe on Wednesday when 2 buses collided on a road between the capital Harare and the eastern town of Rusape. Traffic accidents are common in Zimbabwe, where roads are riddled with potholes due to years of underfunding and neglect, but the highway where the accident occurred had been recently resurfaced. In June last year, 43 people were killed in a bus crash in the north of the country, along the highway leading to neighbouring Zambia. Somalis praised this week's election of one-time Somali refugee Ilhan Omar to the US Congress.
We are extremely happy because of the success of that Somali sister, and we urge her to defend both Somalis and Muslims in the US.
Omar fled Somalia's civil war with her parents at the age of 8 and spent 4 years at a refugee camp in Kenya. Omar shared the historic distinction on Tuesday with Rashida Tlaib, the daughter of Palestinian immigrants, of becoming the first 2 Muslim women elected to the US Congress. Both women are Democrats from the Midwest and outspoken advocates of minority communities that have found themselves in the sights of US President Donald Trump's anti-immigrant policies.
And as we fight to protect our immigrant families, our neighbors, our children, our planet, our communities, I promise to always have your back.
More than 400 buffaloes believed to have been chased by lions drowned on Tuesday night in Chobe River in northern Botswana, on the border with Namibia. About 1,000 buffalo had struggled to get over a riverbank when the stampede started. 3 lions were seen in the area. Namibia said the buffalo meat would be donated to the local community and carcasses were being collected.
At this shared taxi station in Antananarivo, armed soldiers accompany the passengers on every nighttime journey. The vehicles also have to travel together in convoy. Without these precautions, travelling the country at night is simply too dangerous. This taxi driver was attacked a few weeks ago by a group of about 50 armed bandits.
They blocked the road with a tree trunk, and we had to stop the taxi as we couldn't go any further. Some drivers have had stones thrown at them and windows broken. Others have been shot at.
But his taxi company did not file a complaint, put off by a culture of police corruption. This lack of trust means that citizens and businesses that can afford it are turning to private companies for protection.
Police officers rarely show up. That's why we have to patrol here every day and keep an eye on the restaurants and hotels. There are also clients who ask us to accompany them.
One frequent crime in Madagascar is the theft of zebu cattle. The police force has led a crackdown on these thefts, targeting the corrupt officials who are ultimately to blame.
We have impounded 2,600 zebus associated with money laundering activities, which also had fake documentation signed off by the authorities. So we've arrested 13 officials who are implicated in this money laundering.
With the clampdown on white-collar crooks, destruction of illegal weapons, and frequent lightning raids, the country is pulling out all the stops to try and control the public security situation, a major issue for whichever candidate wins the presidential election. Kinshasa is considered the capital of rumba, a traditional style of music now seen as outdated by many young people. The inner-city youth of the Democratic Republic of Congo are instead turning to the booming urban music scene. Rap and hip-hop artists are rapidly becoming the new cultural leaders in this country rocked by political crisis.
There are new structures, people standing up to fight, to say yes, we can create urban music here in the Congo.
Tucked away in this working-class district of the capital is a tiny recording studio called Kinshasa Sound. All the big names from the country's underground scene have passed through. Artists like Sister Becky, Alesh and Magneto. Their music broaches problems faced by the young population, often leading to attempts at government censorship.
They said we were making songs that go against common decency.
The Democratic Republic of Congo is due to hold elections on the 23rd of December. Just like Uganda's Bobby Wine or Burkina Faso's Smoky, opposition candidate Lexus Legal has made the transition from music to politics. As an election contender, he describes himself as singing in a different key to the prevailing politics of President Joseph Kabila.
We're not just going to do what the president wants or the opposition for that matter. That's not going to happen.
Lexus Legal has been arrested many times. Another rapper has been hit by censors, who found fault with the song's refrain of "Theft is wrong" and its title, "The Leader is Heartless." But despite efforts to clamp down on this music, its popularity persists among a generation that is determined to see cultural and political change.
Tunisia kicked off a major film festival on Saturday under tight security, just days after a suicide blast rocked the centre of the capital. Events at the Carthage Film Festival, now in its 29th year, and which celebrates the best of Arab and African cinema, were held a stone's throw away from where a female suicide bomber wounded 20 people in central Tunis on October 29th.
2 years ago, there was an attack in the middle of the festival, and it's true that it made us feel uncomfortable, and we continued the festival under a curfew. Today, we cannot fight. We can only fight terrorism through culture.
Burkina Faso's Mathias Sorgo won the Tour of Faso at the end of the 10th and final stage in Ouagadougou. The race, one of the oldest cycling events of the African calendar, gathered thousands of spectators and some 60 riders. That's all from us at Africa Weekly. Until next week.